Hello and welcome back to Mask of the Plague Doctor by Peter Parrish with me, Barden. Right, a new day begins, indeed. Let's go. So, actually on chapter 4, good. For Mayoral Excellence. Alice and Ayoko are waiting for you in the sanctuary courtyard. An early morning frost still lingers on the shadowed patches of grass, coating the soles of your boots with moisture. You tilt your mask up and bite into the chunk of bread that constitutes your meagre breakfast. It feels stale and heavy, as if the dough were awash with mud and pebbles. "That bread really works the jaw," Ayoko says, spotting your expression, "but we'll be glad of it when the food starts to run out. Or if this well needs any repairs," Alice says, parting the stonework. Ayoko scoffs and starts cranking the shaft to raise the bucket. "Since we're all present," he says, "the source of this plague eludes us, and the disease seems to defy known treatment. With those undesirable truths in mind, I believe our most immediate task, our most viable, really, is to curb the rate of infection." Your colleague pauses to splash some well water over his face. "The abbot has made his position about burial clear, but we may be able to impress the importance of burning the bodies on those who labour at the cemetery. Wherever our own sympathies lie, it is the safest choice." "I'll remain at the sanctuary today," Alice says. "Somebody ought to keep the patients under observation and try to placate qualm." "Somebody wants to wrangle a key to the sanctuary archives, you mean?" Ayoko remarks, ignoring the gesture he receives in response. "Gamel, you're welcome to accompany me, though if you put any stock in the talk of miraculous marketplace cures, you could pursue that instead. I've also collected a number of urine vials from sanctuary patients if..." "Before they decide, I have a letter to deliver," you say, cutting him off. "What's so important that you need to wear the messenger's mantle all of a sudden?" Ayoko asks. Let's relay our encounter with Duncan. You describe the encounter with Duncan and the guild member's request that you find his aunt. Ayoko listens, recognition crossing his face as you relate what he told you about Diota. "I've seen her in the sanctuary hall," he says. "I'll point her out." The two of you cross the grass towards the elaborate double doors of the hall. Ayoko lifts and releases the door knocker 3 times, just as you saw the abbot do. After a moment's pause, the door swings ajar, and you head inside. The pungent warmth of the sanctuary hall greets you once again. Few patients raise their heads in your direction. Others pace the floor, jabbering to themselves and picking at their skin. A malign odour of sickness floats in the air. You take a long look at the suffering before you, resolved to do everything you can to help these people. "That's her!" Ayoko taps your arm, shaking you from your thoughts. He points to a corner of the hall where you see a lady of middle age with short, red hair, no more than 5 feet in height. Let's introduce ourselves to Diota. "Diota?" you inquire, taking a seat on a pew across from hers. She looks at you and stares beyond you, her eyes depleted by pain and fatigue. After a spell, she seems to see your mask. "Oh, that's quite a sight. I used to know a story about a wolf. Now, how did it go?" Diota trails off. You wait for a short while, but the thread appears to have come unspooled. "Diota, I have a letter here from Duncan, your nephew," you say, lifting your mask and producing the parchment. She smiles. "Duncan? I have a nephew named Duncan. He's a big lad." You hand her the paper. She gazes at it for some time. You see her mouth move, forming silent words. She passes it back, her hand shaking in the manner of somebody twice her years. "Since I've been here, my concentration... I see the shapes, but please read this for me." You nod and begin to read. "Dear Aunt Dee, I'm sorry I haven't been able to visit. Alvina says I'm the best at making sure nobody gets in the tannery. She helps me with my writing, just like you used to. I really want you to get better. Then we can eat gingerbread at the market again. I'd like that. Love, Duncan. A tear rolls from Diota's exhausted eyes. She puts her head in her hands. The words come out stifled and muffled. Such good boys, Duncan and Dorna. We'd fetch gingerbread, and there was a little extra to trade. So long ago now. You begin to stand, choosing to leave Diota with her memories. As you rise, she lowers her hand from her face. Thank you, she says. The letter. May I keep it? You hand Diota the ragged parchment for a second time. She leans in as close as she's able. You're a kind soul, she says. I don't remember much these days, but I do recall this. Her voice is low, but possessed of a new clarity. Cecil Lane, the corner house, loose window. I've a stash of beets and yams under the floor. Get Duncan to help you. He's a strapping boy, my nephew. You give her your thanks, unsure if those details can be accurate, but resolving to send someone to investigate. She touches her palm to the parchment, her weary smile adorned with sadness. Let's return to Ayoko. All done, Ayoko says, dusting muck off his robes. So, what's it to be? I think Ayoko can handle the cemetery. So I'm going to go with Lucia, but I don't put any stock in these weird remedies, so I'm worried that us going there won't actually achieve anything. So because of that, then I'm torn on maybe going to back up Ayoko. But no, I think I'll go with Lucia. Let's see what they can do to help us. I'll stop by the caravans to pick up Lucia, then head to the marketplace. He gives you a grunt of acknowledgement. Very good. We can't have people disturbing suspicious concoctions or distributing suspicious concoctions and calling it medicine. I wish you luck. Okay, let's convene with Lucia. Just to be sure then, Lucia says, huffing a rather sad-looking apple on their padded leggings. Oh, buffing, not huffing. I've been invited along on this little adventure in case you need somebody to stab a few shopkeepers, because they may, unwittingly or otherwise, be poisoning the populace. You say they're more like market stalls and shops, but that's otherwise quite accurate. Lucia takes a bite from the apple, mulling this information over. Your profession is stranger than I thought. The rumble of activity from the marketplace gets louder as you turn north, off the main street of Thornback Hollow, and into its mercantile district. You pass by buildings professing to house basket weavers and textile labourers, now abandoned thanks to the scarcity of quarantine. Your colleagues in the... Oh, it's me, isn't it? Yeah, your colleagues and the players. You're sure they will be safe? You ask Lucia, mindful of angry crowd you encountered the previous day. If that mob tries again, they'll regret it, they reply. I've been training some of the actors in handling real blades. They're already stage duelists, so it's mostly a matter of encouraging them not to pull their thrust at the last second. Lucia pauses. Hopefully that won't sour any of our performances. The two of you see the street opening out ahead, widening like the mouth of a river, reading the sea. You hear sporadic shouts, carried on the wind, scented through with spices and the hustle of commerce. Valuable goods, I don't think so. I don't know what to expect ahead. Be ready. We're looking at market stalls, not striding into battle, Lucius says. Still, these merchants will be doing a fine trade in fraudulent cures, you reply. They may not submit so easily. The mercenary nods and pats the hilt of their blade. As you wish. Let's enter Market Square. The marketplace has space for dozens of stalls, but today there are a few wooden canopies in evidence. You see a grocer, looking glum and defeated behind a pile of shriveled potatoes and other blackening produce. A spice stall lies in pieces, ransacked for its goods. Across the other side of the square, two citizens of Thornback are shoving one another, squabbling over some protected trinket or dishevelled piece of sustenance. The stall owner raises his voice over the fight, appealing for calmer heads or egging them on. You cannot be sure. I can't wait to leave this town, Lucia says under their breath. Okay. I can't wait to leave this town, Lucia says under her breath. Only one stall seems to be popular this morning. Customers crowd around the storefront in the northeastern section of the market, generating a steady clamour. You hear a merchant bellowing instructions above the din. One at a time, keep it calm, keep it tight, or Reg here will have to start rapping knuckles. The small mass of people respond by slumping into a general murmur. Some at the rear of the group see you approach, tapping their neighbours on the shoulder to get their attention. Whether due to your mask or Lucius' sword, the ranks slowly part, easing you through to the other side. There you are greeted by stalls stacked deep with bottles, vials, and what do you assume to be charms. That's better, says the woman behind the counter, scratching flakes out of a half-shaved scalp. Now, who's... She stops as she sees the pair of you and gestures to a weasel of a man, armed with a crude bludgeon. He steps around the side of the stall, positioning himself close enough for you to inhale his fetid aroma. Is it festival time already? The woman says. Are you two up to dress like that for sport? The man you presume to be Reg snorts out a laugh. Beside you, Lucia's hand creeps towards the hilt of the sword. Just two patrons interested in your wares, you say. The woman spreads her arms in a mockery of friendship. Very well, then feast your eyes. Long as you're got something to trade, Mabel's store can cure what ails you. Amulets to ward off the chill, potions to double your strength. She cups her hand to her mouth, resplendent, with sores affecting a stage whisper. And for those it means, Thornback's one and only cure for the waking death. You glance over at Lucia, then point at the array of dubious medicines on display. You need to remove these from sale or shut the stall. Is that so? Mabel replies. And why would I want to do a thing like that? I don't think appealing to her greater nature, which this one would do, would help. So, gotta look at another one. We could maybe try to just give her money, but I think she just set up with a different cure, right? Because your deity is judging your actions, she won't care about that. Okay, I understand you need to make a living, but please reconsider. And then I could say, listen, at the authority of Baron Moreland, I think realistically it's a choice between this and this, and either are good choices. Man, I don't know which one to do. It's tough. That's how I know that it's very well written, because the choices are so tough. I'm feeling it might end badly, but let's go with this one. We'd like to buy your cure for the waking dead, permanently. Mabel cocks her head to one side. What? You sigh. I'm offering you a simple exchange of goods. We provide you a share of our medical supplies. In return, your cure for the waking dead disappears from sale, forever. The stall-keeper waves Reg over. The two of them huddle in deep discussion. You see them cast suspicious glances in your direction. They part and Reg nods. The stall stays open. You guarantee us supplies. We never sell Alexander's plague cure again, Mabel says. She spits in her hand and holds it out for you to shake. Very well, you say, but we also want to know more about this Alexander. Removing this fake concoction from the stall is one thing. Shutting down the source will be even more valuable. Done. You grimace as you cement the deal, vowing to wipe your palm at the earliest opportunity. Reg is dispatched to the sanctuary with a written note in your hand, authorizing the supplies. The stall-keeper betrays a location. Lucia stands, hands on hips, staring at the architectural atrocity. Are you quite sure this is the place? They ask. I thought a physician was supposed to live here. Burr Street, first house on the left, you say, confirming Mabel's directions to yourself. This is it. Droplets of rain begin to squeeze forth from the skies, splashing in the churned mud surrounding the dilapidated shack in front of you. Rotten timber provides precarious support for a roof that appears to have been constructed from discarded tannery skins. A lone doorway acts as the only entrance inside this windowless dwelling. You make your way up to the door and knock 4 times, as instructed by the stall-keeper. Lucia examines the soles of their leather shoes, now an inch higher thanks to a layer of wet dirt. Glad I dressed up for the occasion. The door creaks open. You almost fall backward in revulsion. Before you stands a figure wearing a grotesque approximation of a plague doctor's mask. Pieces of skin and fur stretch, overlaid and secured hurriedly in place, makeshift stitches. A waft of putrid air billows out from the interior, penetrating your own mask. Ah, a fellow purveyor of medical arts. Come inside, come inside. The man's voice will be welcoming, were it not undercut by a tonal timbre, like melodies falling from a pearly stringed lute. I am Alexander, the horse leech, the man before whom all plagues are humbled. He ushers you in with scabbed hands. Hold your nose and enter. The single-room dwelling manages to be even more cramped on the inside. A pile of rags in one corner must serve as a basic bed. Close at hand you spot a soiled hole, which you refuse to think about any further. Along the wall to the left of the door is a crooked wooden bench, dense with the paraphernalia of medicine, dirty instruments, and a number of green glass bottles you saw at the market stall. You experiment with breathing through your mouth instead of your nose, and almost gag. The stench is not improved. You fear you can taste it. Beside you, Lucia is trying to filter inhalations through her hand. Alexander appears unaffected by the odours of his domain, or by your obvious discomfort. Are you here to learn from my genius? He asks. Or are you agents of decay? Alexander turns his head toward Lucia, pondering their origins. No, you're from further afield. His ragged mask veers close to you, malformed flesh flapping across his jaw as he speaks. Now you, lift up your mask. You follow his instruction, tilting the wolf design up to reveal your face. He holds your gaze for several seconds. A local, eh? Ah, but you wear the mask. That's a bond of truth between us. Satisfied, Alexander steps over to his bench. I have to be careful. Agents of decay are everywhere. They dress like locals, spread disease among the people, and it's left to me to cure their ills. You watch as he rolls up a sleeve of a threadbare robe, revealing a limb crisscrossed with scars. I, who have alone imbibed the blood of the stallion deity, and must impart this gift to the realm. He snatches up a rusted fleam and digs in deep into his arm, grunting in pain as he allows the blood to drip from his elbow into one of the glass vials. Wherever you're witnessing, you need to put an end to this right now. Yeah, I challenge his genius by critiquing his surgical technique. You call yourself a genius, you say as the blood congeals inside the container, but your bloodletting is amateurish, not to mention out of date. He looks at you. Behind the mask you catch sight of eyes half glazed in ecstatic trance. I'm Alexander the Horse Leech, he slurs. And no one may call me amateur. You think back to your formative years as a surgeon, trying to remember the old techniques for bleeding patients that once dominated your profession. Memories of your upbringing come flooding back. Only the crudest of barber surgeons use such a technique, you insist. Are you even aware of the Harvarian method? Alexander stares at his arm, saying nothing. You sense the presence of doubt in his manner for the first time since setting foot in the shack. He says, struggling for a moment to find his speech. Could that be so? If the divine essence was released incorrectly... His hands go to his head, knocking the vial to the floor. Blood seeps into the floorboards and continues to course down his arm from the wound where the fleam remains embedded. Alexander starts to wail. Ah! You step forward with caution, motioning for Lucia's aid. While they restrain the weeping physician, you do your best to construct a rudimentary bandage, settling at last on the least filthy strips of cloth you can locate around Alexander's own body. You ease the blade of the fleam out, preparing a quick poultice from your own supplies, and stem the bleeding. Through fractured sobs, he vows to end the bloodletting. It will, he explains, be an act of penance to his mysterious equine deity. As you depart the wretched hovel, you see him prostrate himself in meditation. You regret that you can do nothing for his fragile mind, but the supply of his foul concoctions should now cease. Okay, let's leave this cursed place. Okay, we got another achievement. Fall of Alexander. Okay, cool. For a time, the two of you walk in silence, side by side down the winding path that should lead you back to Thornback Hollow's thoroughfare. The rain that threatened to become a downpour has ceased, replaced by a biting wind. It's you who chooses to speak up first. Lucia, you say, thank you. When I needed you in there, you didn't hesitate. Never a dull moment around you, is there? They reply. Then a slight grin. I have to say, I like that. Silence makes a brief return. Lucia fiddles with their hat. Gamble, what did we just see? He was raving about some divine power, cutting himself. You shake your head. My profession has only recently developed the skills to deal with straightforward wounds. It is untold paths to travel before it can categorize Alexander the Horse Leech. And the mask? Lucia asks, making a noise of disgust. I think it was supposed to be a horse? Right, stallion deity. They nod, then exhale in bemusement. The harrowing ordeal is over, and Alexander's supply of depraved medicine at an end. Part ways at the caravan. You travel back together, swept along the road by a forceful breeze. Ahead, the canopies of the theatre caravans bulge in the unquiet air. You hear the slapping of canvas entrance whipping back and forth. Lucia bids you farewell, and you head onward to the sanctuary. As you near the sanctuary archway, you see Alice in discussion with a second figure. You're approaching from behind, but the dark blue attire and powerful frame leave you in little doubt. It is the militia captain who requisitioned your supplies. "Tonight," you catch her saying, "and you'd better be here. No excuses." Alice spots your arrival, holding up a piece of gold-trimmed parchment. "Frida here has extended us an invitation," she calls. "To dine with... Let's see here." Alice adopts a haughty tone. Her Mayoral Excellence, Madam Sybil Blake." "Watch your tongue, physician," Frida says, glowering in Alice's direction. "Mayor Blake demands respectful company for the evening, and I do mean demands." "I'd be honoured and humbled to attend." Yeah, let's just bullshit her for a while. "Well, good," says Frida, sounding a little perplexed. "Since you have no choice either way." She turns away, striding off towards the west side of the town. "Suppose we ought to clean ourselves up," Ioka says, leaning against the archway for support. "Before we do that," Alice replies, "how did you fare at the cemetery?" Ioka shakes his head and moves to go aside. "I've better news," you remark. "Lucia and I found the source of the marketplace concoctions and put an end to the supply. Yeah, but we didn't stop them burying the bodies, which may have been more important. Let's prepare for the dinner party. Actually, let's show our stats first before that." Right, so physician is at 32, surgeon 56, Mrs. 40 presents. They all seem kind of similar to before. We seem to be now more ruthless, or heading towards more ruthless now. Still dominated by compassion, which is good. Blasphemous is definitely in the ascendancy there. We're still principled, and then the other two are kind of not too bothered about those at the moment. Progress on the cure, 28% is good. I think that's gone up. Unrest is about the same, and dweller influence 40%. Okay, let's see what we have here then. Alice were 56%, Ayoko 40, Lucia 61. That's good. Then the others are still 30. Okay, let's return to the game and continue on. Prepare for the dinner party. With the plague doctor's robes as clean as they are likely to get, the three of you set forth for the mayor's manor. You head west, back down the trail you walked on your first night in Thornback Hollow. As the afternoon skies begin to dim, you find yourself at the foot of the barrow. A winding, stepped pathway curls from the main thoroughfare up into the town's aristocratic dwellings, elevated well above the high polloi. Partway through your ascent, as the carved stone steps merge with it into a gently rising cobblestone walkway, Alice points at something. "There, I saw it again." You follow her gaze and notice that the hillside to your left is speckled with holes. A long-eared rabbit pops its head out into the air, sniffs and vanishes back inside. "Half the town is going hungry. How did they keep these creatures from being poached?" Ayoko muses aloud. "Appears they have an armed escort," Alice replies, motioning farther up the hill to the outline of a militia bowman. "There too," she adds, pointing to another sentry, stationed lower down. "And... wait!" A third figure, lacking the distinctive attire of the mayor's militia, is approaching you. He wears a hooded garment that hangs to just beneath his knees. As he nears, you see an affable expression on his soft round face. He gives you a wave. Well met, doctors. My name is Richard Cogg. I'm the steward of these warrens. He glances around, light perspiration on his brow. You realize that the smile he wears sits beneath anxious eyes. He tugs at his sleeve. I notice your interest in my animals. Would you like to meet my rabbits? The strange tone of that sentence gives you pause. He continues to pull something from his sleeve. A hint of colour emerges. Bright red. A gilt sash. Richard gestures to it with his eyes. I would be interested in meeting your rabbits. Richard widens his eyes in relief. Then come this way. It should prove fruitful. What exactly is happening? Ayoko asks. It would appear we're detouring in order to revisit a recent acquaintance, Alice says. Watch your step, Richard warns. I've seen many an ankle turned by these burrows. Let's enter Richard's abode. Aviva Frith sits behind a small table, her left leg raised and supported on a nearby chair. Her cane lies across her lap. There's a faint impression of a smile as she sees you enter, and she thanks Richard as he returns her sash. I apologize for the clandestine nature of this reunion, but when I heard you were visiting our beloved mayor, I had to bend your ear. She holds her gaze on Ayoko's boar mask. You, with the tusks, we've not met. Ayoko Tai, he says, lifting his mask to reply. Ah, Alvina says, waving a finger in his direction. Now, you look like a man who would still carry a fleam. Yoko hesitates. In the corner of your eyes, you see Alice shift her weight in annoyance. Alviva clears the topic with a wave of her hand. I'm sorry, she says. This is not the moment for old jibes. Richard appears from an adjoining room with a plate of oatcakes. A lean white rabbit with patches of brown round its cheeks lollops beside you. You bite into an oatcake. It feels brittle, dry, and suspiciously lacking in oats. I've been observing you since you reached the tannery, Alviva says. You appear committed in your effort to eradicate the waking death. But I am here to urge you that this alone will not save our town. Even if the disease is removed, Mayor Blake will remain in power. The citizens of Thornback Hollow will remain in poverty, their material needs unmet by an uncaring realm. Our task is to understand and cure this plague, Alice says. You ask us to also turn against the crown? You speak as if such actions would be unthinkable, but what? Alviva asks, leaning forward across the table. Does this crown offer people such as you? Nothing yet. It uses its authority to coerce us into action. That's not so, Gamel, Alice says. The Crown backed my studies, gave me license and authority to practice medicine. And then tossed you into a maelstrom of plague and misery, Alviva remarks. Curing disease is my duty. Duty? That's just another pretty term for having no free choice. Alviva taps her knuckles on the table. I think you'll hear me out. She looks at you. This one will, at least. All right, Ayoko says. Speak your piece. Plainly put, Thornback Hollow is on the brink of chaos, Alviva says. Those going hungry will soon be starving. You've already witnessed the unrest. It will get worse.
Without somebody to channel their anger, it will be unleashed on the least deserving.
She picks up her cane, using it for emphasis.
But this dissatisfaction also creates a unique opportunity. It can be turned against our rulers. We may yet liberate the town.
Liberate the town to what end? Ayoko scoffs.
There's an army at the gate and plague inside the walls. Do you plan to govern over desolation? I don't plan to govern anything. That would be the role of a council of labor,
Alviva retorts.
Now, you speak at the Baron's army. I see a handful of peasants, ripped from their homes and eager to return. They'll have little stomach for a fight against a town in full revolt.
She points the end of the cane at the three of you.
The plague I shall leave in your able hands. If you fail, we are all doomed. This talk will be for naught.
Richard's rabbit lops up onto the table. Alviva regards it with interest.
Succeed, however, and we have a chance to organize and distribute power for the people. No more will we break our backs sending timber to the crown, only to see it roll back down our streets as machines of war. No more will plunder from those wars enrich the mere and flow back to the imperial capital. No more will we bow to monsters who imprison us without cause, whose wealth and birthright makes them our betters.
She strikes the table with her cane, sending the rabbit scurrying under a nearby chair.
I foresee a better future. Will you help shape it?
I won't take sides. My loyalty is to medicine and medicine alone. I'll do what I can. I cannot commit to this until I know you are backed by the deities. This is treason. I'll have no part in it. Rather than answer, I opt to coax the rabbit out from under my chair. It's one of these two. I kind of drawn to I'll do what I can, but I think right now our job and our loyalty is to medicine, so I'm going to do this one. I won't take sides. My loyalty is to medicine and medicine alone. Alviva looks to Alice and Ayoko.
Is this how you feel as well? She asks.
I'm here to understand this plague and for nothing more, Alice replies. Ayoko rubs his stubbled jaw.
I'm not much friend to the crown anymore, so I won't stand in your way, but we are here for medicinal reasons. That's how we can help the people.
Alviva drags her stiff leg to the floor and uses the cane to get to her feet.
I can have no quarrel with that stance. Perhaps after attending the mirror, your view will shift. Either way, we may yet speak again.
Richard, Alviva says, nodding to him on her way to the door.
My thanks for hosting this gathering. Apologies for startling one of your charges. You're always welcome, Miss Frith, he replies. Alviva, no need for any titles here. Sorry, Miss Alviva.
She straightens her red sash at the doorway.
Do give my love to the mirror, she says.
You while away some more time at Richard's table, making sure you aren't all seen leaving together. Onwards to the Mayor's Manor. The hill's flat summit has been turned into an immaculate circular lawn. A belated sun has shown itself, and the warmth of the mid-afternoon brings a relaxed air. Up here the people make no effort to conceal themselves. To the players of a hoop and stick game unfolding on the green, your masked curiosities, nothing more. One of the finely dressed attendants waves a silken garment in your direction. Their partner nudges them, and they both collapse into fits of laughter. In this privileged eyrie, the waking death feels like a distant concern. Round the outskirts of the lawn sit a semicircle of manor dwellings. Stonework dominates the construction of every building, in stark contrast to wooden structures prevalent in the rest of Thornback Hollow. Intricate window trimmings, mock parapets, and decorative roofing patterns reflect the lavish attention paid to the design of these homes. Profitable role, this trade route administration, Ayoko says, leaning back to get a better view of some carved gargoyles perched atop a nearby spire. Amid the opulent dwellings, one mansion stands above the rest. A grand entrance awning sits behind a mosaic of coloured stones, depicting a pale flower arising from a lake. The building stands rigid, its broad back to the western cliffs, an undertaking of expert stonemasonry and ostentatious wealth. The three of you cross the mosaic and stand before a door with striking iron hinges, each one a floret, covered stem curling across the length of the wood. You look at your colleagues, then knock hard on the flat with the flat of your fist. Where are we? Footsteps approach, followed by scraping of several locks. The door swings open, revealing a wrinkled man in servant's garb. He stands aside, allowing you to pass. Feel awed by this expression of the manor's wealth. Find myself sickened by the opulence on display. I give the servant a friendly nod as I enter. I reward the servant with a silent stare. One of these two. I think I would feel sickened by the opulence on display. The disparity between the ostentatious expression of wealth and the conditions you have seen in town cause you disgust. With a slight shake of your head, you step into a palatial hallway. Bold tapestries cover the walls, and a curved stairway leads up to unseen rooms above you. Oh, sorry, overcome by a yawn there. Overhead, a long balcony stretches around three sides of the room, forming an upper gallery. A woman in a long silver gown emerges at the railing, her grey hair held in place by a complicated array of shimmering strands. Jewellery adorns her neck. "Our guests have arrived. Come along, Alwyn." She addresses a young man of pale complexion. His black outfit is embellished with puffed sleeves and white ruffled cuffs. Upon seeing you, the woman puts a hand to her cheek. "Goodness, this is not to do at all," she exclaims. The lines on her face harden in disapproval. "Those wretched robes, ghastly masks. Is there mud on my mosaic? Alwyn, escort the doctors to our guest wing at once. One simply cannot share a dining table with such a frightful sight." The boy descends the stairs in silence and motions you to follow him. No, boots off, comes the cry from upstairs. The three of you pull off your filth-encrusted footwear and abandon them by the doorway. As you leave with your new guide, you see a second servant dash out, scoop the boots up, and toss them outside. Okay, let's follow Aylwyn's... Oh, it's Aylwyn, not Alwyn. Aylwyn's lead. You're shown down a corridor and into a room with a curtained four-poster bed. The curtains are drawn back, presenting white sheets and a considerable pile of stitched cushions. Portraits with unfamiliar faces hang on one of the walls. A set of windows cast light across the huge wardrobe. "You'll find clothes in there," Alwyn says, his voice soft. Up close, you are surprised to see he appears almost a man in age, yet retains the manner and dress of a younger boy. "Please choose something that Mother will find agreeable. I'll be just outside so I can escort you back." "Should I not bathe first?" you ask. "Mother does not wish..." He hesitates for a moment. "She does not wish you to befoul the manor bathroom." "But the clothes we choose..." The boy looks about himself, uttering a reply so soft you cannot be certain you've heard it. Heard it right.
They will be burned when you leave.
Before you can respond further, Aylwin has ducked out, no doubt to show Ayoko and Alice to rooms of their own. You glance back at the bed, suddenly feeling the weight of the past 2 days. Perhaps just a short nap. No, you need to dress for dinner. You open the wardrobe and consider your options. Several pieces of clothing look as if they'll fit. Okay, so what are we going to choose? Let's see. This black attire conveys my inner hired assassin. At last a chance to wear the fine silks fur cloaks I deserve. I'll just wear these clean, plain robes. I'm still one of the people. I want something to match my mask, which is definitely staying on. I'll just wear these clean, plain robes. I'm still one of the people. You debate leaving your wax robes on the bed, risking some of the dirt and dust staining the blankets. Instead, you opt to drape them over a low bedside table, retaining a couple of the medicinal pouches to conceal about your person, just in case. Taking your wolf mask in hand, you give it a lingering glance before placing it atop the robes. All this time, you've rarely had cause to leave it anywhere beyond your reach. You feel a tickle of unease as you squeeze on some semi-inappropriate shoes. Then head out.
Oh good, you're done,
says Alwyn, awaiting as promised in the corridor. Farther down you see Ayoko shifting around inside a Forster's jerkin. No matter his posture, it sits slightly too tight. He notices you looking and stops fidgeting to fold his arms across his chest. The door closes behind you, and you turn to see Alice. She's wearing a tailored green tunic, a matching shoulder cape.
What?
She asks, catching Ayoko's eyes.
Is the cape too much?
He shrugs.
Just happy one of us could find something that fits properly.
What do you mean by that? You say, suddenly self-conscious of your choice.
Come on, he replies. Her illustrious Imperial, what was it? The mayor is waiting on us.
Alwyn bites his lip and looks at the floor, then recalling that he's supposed to be guiding you, gestures for you to accompany him. Follow Alwyn once again. Mayor Blake is directing servants beneath the high ceiling of the manor dining room. She shoos away a young woman holding an incomplete table ornament, then runs a sharp gaze over the three of you, her mouth a flat line, lips pressed tight.
It's an improvement, she says, raising a smile,
then that fails to reach her eyes.
Dinner will be served ahead of sundown. You've caught us in quite a state, as you can see.
Sybil waves an elegant hand over the vast oak dining table, laid out with polished cutlery, arranged to your eye in apparent perfection.
Hideous,
she adds, her hand gliding back to her forehead.
I can barely look at it.
Another servant appears at the mayor's side, this time clutching a pair of decorative textiles. Sybil sighs, resting against the table in mock exhaustion.
Aylwyn, darling, I simply must see to this. Take our guests to the garden or perhaps the library. Return when you hear the bell.
The young man ushers you back out of the room. Alice has her hands clasped tightly together.
Gamel, I need to see that library. The sanctuary archives were just endless lists of abbots and inventories for candles. I need books, real books.
One for the library, you say. Ayoko, any preferences?
My preference would be eating dinner, he grumbles. Failing that, some fresh air. You don't have to stay as a group,
Aylwyn says, studiously examining the floor.
If you have different intentions.
That is, Alice makes a small noise of joy. This is a tough one because we kind of I think he would kind of want to get to know Alice more, just because like he spent more time with her than with Ayoko, and he kind of has similar opinions to her, and obviously there seems to be an attraction building, at least from his part, towards her, and I think that's what he would choose because of that. Yeah, so I think we're going to join her in the library. I'll join Alice in the library.
Wait here. I need to show your colleague to the garden first.
Elwyn escorts Ayoko down the corridor. A few moments later, he returns and shows the two of you to the manor library. Let's step into the library. The room is more compact than you expect, with sets of simple shelving from floor to low ceiling. A round, stained glass window on the wall opposite the entrance casts warm outlines of blue and white across some of the book spines. Alice wastes no time in running her finger along several volumes, searching for titles of interest. You watch Elwyn position himself in front of a section of shelving, covered by a sheet of glass.
Estuaries and Rivers of the Realm. Cragscree, Memoirs of a Mountaineer, Nightly Knaves and Fiendish Caves.
Alice shakes her head and starts to work her way down the next shelf. You step over to where Elwyn is standing, curious to see what is being held in the bookcase behind him. As you try to peer around, he seems to slouch a little more to block your view. "What's in here?" you ask.
He says. Oh, nothing. Boring ledgers, receipts for work on the house.
Over your shoulder, you hear Alice gasp.
They have an original binding of the Trotula,
she says, pointing past Elwyn's right ear.
We need to see the books inside this case. Urgent plague doctor business.
The boy looks pained.
I'm not supposed. Mother said nobody may touch them. Please, can't you just be satisfied with the others?
We'll be very careful with them. I don't want you to get in any trouble.
You're asking about them, so I'm already in trouble, he says with a sad sigh. And now I'm making you upset too. I'm an awful host.
He seems crestfallen. We're not upset, you say, but you seem troubled by all this. Is there anything we can do to help? Elwyn dabs a fancy cuff at his eye.
Nobody ever asked me that, he sniffs. It's all responsibility, duty, teaching me my role as heir. I hate it.
He stops for a moment, thinking.
But you seem kind.
He glances around and slips you a tiny key.
Please, don't take too long. Being late for dinner will really fire her temper.
The key clicks in the case, allowing you to swing the glass panel outward on a pair of sturdy hinges. Alice reaches for the Tarantula, removing it with care. Despite the choice of storage, a layer of dust has managed to infiltrate and coat every one of these texts. You fight back a sneeze as Alice opens the cover by your side.
The last chapter on conception, she whispers, apparently to herself.
You examine your options inside the bookcase. In such clandestine circumstances, you'll not be able to read as much as you desire. While considering your choices, you notice that several of the spines have little light finger marks on their dusty exteriors. If you are important enough for somebody else to refer to, perhaps they'll be of use to you too. Mindful that you'll have to settle for just one, you peer at the titles. Deities Custom, a comprehensive compendium by Sunnife Clark, might be helpful. Industrial Growth in Thornback Hollow, Volume 1, could provide clues from the town's past. Let's get rid of that. Notice, okay, so apparently Zemoff is doing something. Probably streaming. No, he's not going to be streaming today. Not sure what it is, but yeah. Let me get rid of all that other crap out of the way so we can continue. Industrial Growth in Thornback Hollow, Volume 1 could provide clues from the town's past. I think On Disease and Infection by Muhammad al-Razi looks useful. Right, well, I'm going to go for this one. Return after reading. Okay. The text is written in an unfamiliar script. Fortunately, a scholar writing in your native tongue has noted and translated multiple passages. You find yourself absorbed, fascinated by the fragments of medical theory within. Judging by the apparent age of this tome, it seems al-Razi rejected the principles of curative bloodletting a great deal earlier than those in your realm. Reading on, you locate snippets of an essay on how the commoner with no medicinal training may better protect themselves against the spread of disease. You do your best to memorize as many of the instructions on cleanliness and conditions for housing the sick as possible. The sanctuary will benefit from these reforms as soon as you are next able to impart them. With a sound like a tiny blacksmith's hammer, striking an even smaller anvil, the peal of the dinner bell reverberates around the room. Aylwin rushes back in from the hallway, curtailing any further reading as he urges you to restore the books to their positions in the glass display. Hurry, hurry, we must leave, he says as you try to return the text without damaging the fragile binding. Once the books are safely back in place, Aylwin snatches the key, turns the lock, and shoos you out of the room. Dinner is served. Okay, and that is where we are going to leave that one. Hope you've enjoyed, hope you're keeping safe out there, and hope to see you next time. Goodbye. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, maybe consider hitting the subscribe button there on the right, or checking out some other videos here on the left, or perhaps you might even share with some friends.